And we're live. Hey, what's up, Sherrie?
Hey, how's it going?
That was a weird pronunciation of your name, Sherrie.
Some people say Cherie, and I'm like, where did you get that? Like, are you just trying to make life hard for yourself? I don't understand.
Just purposely trying to upset you.
Probably. I'm sure
Now,
that's what it is.
yeah. You're not into typos of your name. You're very not into speaking of mispronunciations and typos.
Yeah.
You're not a
Speaking
fan.
of which, you did spell my last name incorrectly in the description of this video.
The funniest thing about this is that I literally like triple checked it.
So it's correct in the title, but in the description, you spelled my last name wrong.
Dang it. Because I think what happens is I'm so sorry. I think I like triple checked and I was mostly focused on your first name because I kept seeing you tweet about people misspelling your first name.
That's pretty funny. So,
But,
for the sake of anyone watching this who might not know who either of us are, because believe it or not, those people exist, should we maybe tell them?
yeah, let's do that. I'm glad somebody knows what they're doing on this show here.
I did used to run a weekly broadcast.
Yeah, you did. So Sherrie, who are you and what do you do?
So funny you should ask, Kalen. I am the community manager at Magento, also lesser known as formerly colleagues with Kalen at what was once known as Sweet Tooth.
Yes, the glory days.
The glory days.
By the way, Jason Cochran is saying who makes it to all the live streams, which I appreciate, which you made fun of him for on a recent live stream. He said, fun fact, Sherrie loves Whataburger. Is that true?
I can't remember if I liked it or not. I remember that we got it because there's this bar near the Austin office or something that Jason and the Shipper HQ guys and Karen and I went to, and they don't serve food. So they went on a mission across the parking lot to Whataburger and brought it back because apparently that's what Texans do. I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to pronounce it Whataburger.
Whataburger.
By the way,
I'm not from the South.
At the meetup last night, Magento meetup last night, speaking of missions involving Karen and Jason, they were there's many details from the night that I cannot retell and will not retell. But yeah, they were talking about a few missions, a few dive bars in Vegas. And where was I going with that? I can't remember where
I think what you're saying was what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens at the meetup stays at the meetup.
Yeah, exactly.
I did notice that there was only one tweet from the meetup.
Yeah, that's how poppin' it was. Nobody was tweeting. Everybody was just meetuping.
Just so engaged. So into it. So off the record.
Super.
Hashtag so sick.
So sick.
I should share this. So fun fact about Kalen, which should not surprise anyone that knows Kalen. So several companies ago for Kalen, this was pre-Commerce Hero, pre-Mage Mail, what was the content one?
Good Links.
Pre-Good Links, pre-Mage Hero, and slightly pre-Mage Update, but a little coinciding.
Wow, respect.
Yes, serialpreneur Kalen. And I was under embargo not to tell anyone that I was employed by Sweet Tooth because we were essentially hired from their yet to be announced new round of funding. So this Sparksoft guy hits the Twitters and is like, so excited to be working with Sherrie, Rhode at Sweet Tooth.
I think I don't know that I ever knew.
Sums up our friendship rather well.
I didn't realize that I had ever done anything I wasn't supposed to do. I don't think you ever even told me that
I didn't care. Jay cared, not me.
Well, he never.
It was just funny.
That's funny.
I think they didn't want people to realize how much money they were spending before they announced the funding.
Right. Right.
But back in the day, we had these monsters. And let me see if I can find
the Sweet Tooth Monsters.
So we had these monsters, and I made these little graphics for people's birthdays, and this was Kalen's because he said hashtag so sick all the time.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
That might be the last birthday like graphic anybody's ever made for me.
Was it also the first?
No. No. Obviously
Lame.
Not.
Lame.
Might have been actually, wait a second. I mean, I guess if you count cards, but those aren't really graphics as such. Okay, fine. That might have been my first and last birthday graphic. I'm just gonna cry and have a nap right now. Rebecca,
Kalen, show us your mug.
My mug?
Yes. I want everyone to observe the fact that we have hit peak Kalen.
I've got Carver Zero logos on logos. No, the funny thing is I wear such random swag shirts that I generally am wearing like some random company's shirt in all my videos for no reason at all. And everyone's like, how much did they pay you to wear their shirt? And I'm like, nothing. All I wear are swag shirts. Oh, and I just today I bought 3 items from the Magento swag store.
Oh,
I got
fancy.
What did I get? I got a mug.
Yeah.
Did I get a mug? Got a mug. I got a duck, the rubber duck.
Those were my idea.
What? That's so awesome. I'm gonna put it right here. It's gonna be right over here, rubber ducky. And I got something else I can't remember. But I really would love to get one of those lights, the Magento lights.
They're supposed to be coming
anybody?
back to the swag store. So
okay, beautiful.
Stay tuned. But yeah, no, Bill Curtis actually taught me about the term rubber ducking, and then I brought it to our swag store.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even make the connection. That's what it's for.
Yeah.
It's for rubber ducking. That's beautiful. For anybody that doesn't know what rubber ducking is, it's the idea that, like, I don't know if it's a development thing or whatever, but a lot of times if you're you can probably explain this better than I can.
No, you're doing great. Keep going.
If you're trying to figure something out, a lot of times just talking through it gets you to fit, like there's a bug and just talking through it lets you figure it out. So if you just talk to a rubber duck, you can basically figure it out.
It lets you sort it out without wasting your coworkers' time.
That was such a better description.
No, but you had to get the context in there. I just TLDR'd it for you at the end.
I just did a lot of hand waving.
Okay.
So yeah, I got some swaggy swag, and I'm really excited once I get the light, my life will be complete. The Magento light. Yeah. So what the heck are we talking about today? I noticed that you are going to be speaking at some fancy schmancy conference for
in
Melbourne.
Yes, I am.
That's not how you say it. It's Melbourne.
I say it however I want to say it.
I don't know why you're cracking me up so much today. But what is this conference that you're going to be speaking?
So it's actually a really amazing, or at least that's been my impression, community conference that takes place in Melbourne every year. And actually, so I used to run a weekly broadcast for community managers, and then we would do an annual 24-hour broadcast. And what we would try to do is for each of those segments, we would empower different community leaders around the world to really run the programming for that hour. We would provide all the tools, and they would provide the content and panelists so that A, it helped spread the word and beyond our own networks, and B, it just helped bring in people that we wouldn't have had the opportunity to learn from otherwise and see how people were working community around the world. And so two of the people that I worked with actually organized this conference in Australia. And a lot of the people that I really have a lot of respect for as community professionals actually have been to this conference or spoke at this conference, etc. So I've secretly, or maybe not secretly, always wanted to go. But about a month or so, Vanessa, who organizes it, reached out to me and asked me if I would keynote there. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's what I noticed. You're not just speaking there, you're keynoting.
Yeah. Well, I think there's multiple keynotes, but yeah.
Still. What was the word? I think I kept saying Jamie Foxx was keynoting, but he was the
marquee
keynote. Yeah. Different levels of keynotes. That's super cool.
Basically, like the famous person that brings a draw to the conference, more or less.
Right. Rebecca just said something that cracked me up. Kalen is already planning a Magento 24-hour live stream because
aren't you already doing a Magento like 365 24/7 live stream?
It's
you were on for what, 3 hours the other day? I don't know. I watched the first hour and left.
Actually, that makes a lot of sense because I think our average view time was like 59 minutes. It should, so YouTube tells you like average view as far as each individual person, what's the average view time, and then total watch, all that kind of stuff. So you were right on average there, which I appreciate. Yeah, that was wild. That's why I got this chair. Okay, I'm expressing
you wore yourself out. This must be really cramping your nap time, all these live streams.
Well, yes and no, because with this setup, what I can do is just literally like I might just take a nap like 15 minutes in, quick nap while you're talking.
You realize if you do that, like we're all just going to bail and you're going to wake up and be like, where'd everybody go?
That would be a really funny like ad to do, or I don't know, like showing me falling asleep and then wake up. Oh my gosh, that'd be so funny. So it'd be the funniest.
So yeah, so what she's actually asked me to talk about is our meetups, our Magento meetups. So that's pretty cool because we've actually Magento meetups. I started looking around at how we could better support them shortly after I started at Magento. It was one of my earlier projects. And so from that, what happened was I started reaching out to meetup organizers and bringing them into a group on the forums. Are you checking yourself out right now? Is that what that was?
Rebecca keeps making me laugh in the chat. She just said Napgento.
Oh.
She keeps cracking
Kalen's next business idea. He's going to sponsor nap rooms at conferences.
That's actually a super good idea. I think, are we going to ever are we going to get napping pods?
Those are massively expensive, so it depends how much money you want to put out there to sponsor them.
I can put out $200.
Yeah, that's not going to pay for a napping pod. That will maybe cover the footrest, maybe.
I so rudely interrupted you because Rebecca's so rude.
It's fine. I was just talking about Magento things instead of rambling, but we can ramble about naps.
No. I want to talk about Magento things. I'm into that.
How long until you spill that water on yourself? All right. So anyway, so I think Richard Carter was the one that reached out to me and suggested that we have a spot on the forums for it. So we kind of brought the meetup organizers in there. And I had done some research on things that I thought we could do to support meetup organizers, but I just straight up asked them, like, what can Magento do to better help support you? Because meetups have been around since, I think, 2008 or 2009 for Magento, but they've always been run by the community and it's always been an independent thing. And I don't think that there's been a lot of coordination between. So what ended up happening is we created a Meetup Pro account, which not only provides a hub for Magento meetups, but it also actually it allows us to cover the organizers meetup.com fees. And I'm actually working with Meetup. I'm going to their headquarters next week, but I'm working with them right now on a lot of feedback around like what we can do to offer even more benefit to organizers that are part of a Meetup Pro network to kind of help them really feel like VIPs. Like right now, for example, they have priority access to WeWorks because WeWork bought meetup.com. And then there's some other things in the works too. So I'm really excited about that. I have a full day at their HQ with their leadership team and like 3 other companies, Google, WordPress, and a gaming company. I can't remember the name of. So
That's really cool.
yeah, should be a lot of fun.
That's super cool. Yeah, it's and then Meetup, there's been I'm trying to remember, there's been some significant growth in the number of meetups in the community.
Yeah, it I want to say there were around 35 or something like that. I have the numbers somewhere because I looked it up for this talk, but it's now over 100. So
Nice.
I think there's 103 in the Meetup Pro network, and then there's maybe like 5 others I'm aware of that aren't on there.
Nice. Like, what's your like what would be the ideal vision for like the number of meetups? Would there be like, excuse me, like, I don't know, like 200 or 300 for like every major minor city? Like how, like what would be like your dream goal as far as?
I mean, for me, it's more about quality than quantity. So not all of those are active or they're not regular. So one of the things we're doing, a couple of the ladies on our events team and I are working on really helping to support the meetups that are near our offices. So in the last few months, we've been working on getting the LA meetup on more of a quarterly cadence. And looked at different things we can do there as far as like, so we have partners come in semi-regularly, almost monthly, for lunch and learns with our team to share about what they're doing and things like that. So now what I've done is teamed up with our partner manager who does that and extended the offer to these partners to stay for the evening and do a meetup to the community in the area as well. So it gives them external exposure as well as the internal exposure, and it brings in fresh faces to the community all the time that way. So that's been one of the things that we're doing to kind of try to create that template. So we're looking at different things we can do to increase quality and then kind of share that out. But as far as quantity, honestly, it doesn't matter to me. I think if you have 100 people and rotating speakers and more sponsors than you know what to do with, that's great. If you have 3 people that want to grab drinks and talk Magento, that's great too. Like to me, that part doesn't matter. So if there's Magento community anywhere, even in like some tiny country town that wants to meet up, then great.
Right. It's funny because like I enjoy going to meetups and stuff like that, and I've thought like, oh, what if I organize? Of course, now I'm in Austin, so that there's one that's pretty close by. But so like, I don't know. I always thought like, man, it's so hard to organize any kind of event or meetup. It's just like can be super hard to organize things and stuff like that. And
it can be. It completely depends on what you do for it. So I ran one for community managers in Waterloo when I lived there, and that one we didn't have a topic. We would just meet at a bar. That one of the people who was a part of the group did their social media actually, so they would give us free appetizers and stuff, and we just promoted them when we were promoting the meetup. But that one, there wasn't a lot of work that went into it, really. We did try to like always find someone new to promote that they were going to be there so that people could come and talk to them about what they do. But it wasn't like a organized presentation or anything. But then you look at, for example, the meetups that like Phil does, or over in India, a lot of their meetups are very good at like doing actual organized talks in London as well, which is one of the biggest Magento meetups. They're all really great at that. And then you look at the Magento Meetup in Austria, and Matthias and Anna actually they run a like what's new in Magento segment at the beginning of each one. So they actually go through and find all the latest Magento news and community updates that they think people would be interested in and present that before they even get started. Some of them use live streams. I know Sonia puts a lot of effort into like creating an inclusive environment. So it just depends. It can be a lot of work, or you can just be like, hey, let's show up at the bar.
Right. Yeah, that was super, that was more casual last night and kind of fun.
And those are great too.
Yeah. Eric mentioned it's been really hard to keep the meetups going here in New York City, which is really strange. And then Eric, feel free to add in any more details. Maybe we can get a live like brainstorm session here with Sherrie. She can give you some free, very expensive consulting on how to improve that.
So I know that New York, like LA, has a lot of events going on every single night, and New York's a little bit easier to get across the city because you have the subway system, so it's not as bad as LA, but that does make it a little bit more difficult. Like, we have a huge city and we have an office here, and our meetup is not one of the biggest ones. But I think actually, Eric, who you should really connect with on that is Kimberly, because she's been running the New York Magento meetup for years now. And what some people don't realize is before her Magento days, she was a club promoter. So she's actually quite experienced in events in New York. So I would definitely connect with her on some ideas there.
Nice. He mentioned like everybody just seems too busy. And I'm sure that's a common thing, like, or like, for example, in LA, like for me, I'd be like, oh, I gotta drive an hour and a half or whatever. Or people are too busy. Like what do you say to that? What do you think is underneath that when people are saying that? Like, what would you say to people?
I mean, a lot of that is just finding the content that's going to get them there, right? So like, it's not for everyone, and some people really are too busy, but maybe try rotating between technical content and non-technical content. Maybe try bringing in a sponsored speaker versus a non-sponsored speaker. So like, for example, with Klarna, some people actually came to the LA meetup this week to learn specifically about Klarna because they had been evaluating it. It's now in our core, and they actually just came because they wanted to meet the team and ask them, like, really, what is the difference between Klarna and PayPal credit? Like, why would I use one over the other? And so they specifically came for that. So sometimes it's a matter of that. I mean, you have a lot of agencies and even tech partners based in New York to work with. So they're there. It's just a matter of getting that set up. Another thing that people have said works well is to rotate where you're hosting it. So if you can connect with different agencies in the area using Magento to host, then that brings in people from their team, and that helps switch things up and get more people involved as well, because you're more likely to stay if it's in your own office than if you have to drive across the city or take 7 subway stops or whatever.
Right. Deal with people assaulting you on the subway and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah, no, those are some good tips, technical versus non-technical. The content thing is interesting too, because I'm realizing that more as I'm doing more of this YouTube stuff and podcast stuff, like not all content is created equal. And once you start to think more about what are people really interested in, and, kind of put yourself in their shoes, you maybe start. So Eric, if you want to keep going on this, we can keep digging. Like, I'm curious, like, what are the topics?
Say too, like, on that note is, don't be afraid to ask them. Like, the meetup already exists, right? So send out a poll to those people, to those members of the meetup, and ask them, would you be interested in technical content or non-technical? Like, would you rather have presentations or just meet up at a bar? Like, you can ask those questions. You already have the audience, so it's very easy to ask them what would get them there. We did that actually with CMGR Hangout. We actually had an ability and a place for them to submit topics. So we knew what they wanted to talk about. And sometimes it was someone that wanted to actually speak on that topic, and sometimes it was someone that wanted to learn about that topic. So if it was someone that wanted to speak, we would find like a couple other panelists to come in with them. And if it was someone that wanted to learn, then we would just go out there proactively and find a thought leader on the topic and bring in like 3 to 5 of them.
Yeah. Right. And then also he's mentioning keeping it going each month is tough just as organizers. And he mentioned consistency. And I can imagine, I sort of spoke to that a little bit too, like the idea of organizing can seem overwhelming. Maybe one of the ways to approach that, like you were saying, there's different types of sort of modalities. You can just do a bar thing. So like maybe what you do is if you want to keep a consistent cadence, maybe if it's too hard to organize something with a talk and a speaker and everything official, like just go out for drinks, but at least have like something every single,
and you can rotate those in. Like I think actually Phil for the South Florida meetup does once a quarter. The meetup is like just a casual drinks meetup. And then I know like Christoph Ringloff in New Zealand once a year has an annual barbecue meetup. So there's things like that you can rotate in that are a change of pace that A, make it easier on you, and B, perhaps attract a different audience than would normally be there.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things we've looked at is like, should we open up our actual lunch and learn to the meetup group and let the public come in for that? Or is lunch better for companies that are nearby, or is it too hard for people to get there? Or like maybe we do a happy hour versus like waiting until 7. And again, it's going to be easier for people nearby or for people who can say, well, it's for work. But for people who have longer commutes, like we have people come all the way from Costa Mesa, which probably doesn't mean anything to most people here, but you know how far that is. They come in.
I know. So. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, those are some good tips. Those are some good pieces of advice. I lost my train of thought when you said Costa Mesa. I was like, Costa Mesa, son of a gun. Yeah, no, that's great. And then so what else? What else, Sherrie, are we supposed to talk about today? We had some topics lined up.
Well, let's see. The title says community management, inclusion, meetups, and more.
Yes. What are you? I did I had a great talk with Sonia around oh, that's what I was going to ask. Sorry. That's what I was going to ask. Was Eric asked about the organizers group and you mentioned it was on the forums. Okay, cool. Well, I had a great talk with Sonia and she had some ideas. She talked about this welcome wagon kind of idea.
I've actually seen that at conferences before. One of the conferences I went to, they actually, before the conference, they had a Facebook group just for newbies so that you could meet people in advance of the event, online even. Yeah.
That's a cool idea because I know, a lot of people have a lot of anxiety, but so that was, I guess, within the broader topic of kind of inclusion and stuff like that. What are you thinking? Like what are your thoughts on that general topic as far as our community goes, communities in general?
Yeah.
Internet.
So I bundled up a lot of that in a talk I gave last year, which is really just looking at what's our community talking about, what our broader community is talking about. But really what I like to bring it back to is, well, I had 2 different types of tips, and one was for event organizers and one was for individuals, because I think a lot of times when we talk about diversity and inclusion, we talk about this gigantic problem that needs to be solved at a level that most of us don't have access to. Which is fine, and that conversation needs to happen. But for the rest of us, rather than just being frustrated and angry all the time, there are actually grassroots efforts, things that we can do, things like the Pac-Man rule, things like making sure if you see someone by themselves, you go say hi. And maybe they don't want to talk, and that's cool. You can figure that out once you're there, but at least you're going to say hi and they're not feeling left out. And things like for if you're speaking, like suggest 3 other topics. Sonia's really good about this. Suggest 3 other topics of interest to you that are not actually what your topic was about, so people feel like they can easily approach you. Like make sure you invite them to come talk to you afterwards. I think that's one thing we try to do as well, even with Magento Masters, is encouraging people, hey, come meet these guys. Like, they want to talk to you. Like, we're not this exclusive, like, unapproachable group. Like, please do come say hi and learn how to get involved in the community. A lot of those types of things are really helpful. We actually started, I guess 2 weeks ago now, a diversity and inclusion channel on the community engineering Slack. So anyone is welcome to come in there. It's a public channel. And if it's a topic that's passionate about you, we've got a document with tons of resources and examples of what other communities are doing. We also have, right now, what we're trying to do as a group is really onboard more people into the speaker directory. And specifically reaching out to women and other underrepresented minorities as well to get them in there, because I think the myth that there are no women who can speak in Magento is wrong. I think a lot of people think of Sonia and Carmen and Anna because we promote them, and they forget about everyone else. Whereas if you look at various Meet Magentos and other Magento events, there actually are quite a few with speaking experience. It's just a matter of reaching beyond your circle and getting to know them. So we're trying to really expand that circle to give speakers who maybe aren't normally thought of more visibility.
The speaker directory thing looks super interesting. I noticed that you tweeted some stuff about it. What's the deal with that? How long has that been around? What's that built on? How does that work?
So that actually started a couple years ago when we started the Meetup initiative. So actually, there's a blog post on our site about Magento Meetups, and it's kind of a little footnote in there, more or less, near the end. But what I was looking for is people come to me all the time looking for speakers, and I was trying to kind of eliminate that need for a middleman to where speakers and event organizers can connect with each other. I think if we all kind of pool our resources and invite people we know in there, whether they're looking to get started speaking or whether they're an experienced speaker, to bring them all into one place with event organizers so that they can easily connect. We also added the ability to indicate if you'd be willing to mentor a less experienced speaker than yourself to kind of help connect people with mentors so that they feel more comfortable getting into speaking. So a lot of people were willing to do that, but they didn't know where to connect. So we're using a platform called Mobilize for this. And it allows you to filter by experience level, by areas of expertise, by continent that they're interested in speaking on, which I realize is not flawless, but at least continent narrows down the corners of the world a little bit. So you're not reaching out to someone that's like, no, I am not coming all the way to Australia or South America or North America. Some people don't want to come all the way to North America. Really, who can blame them right now? So, so it's kind of trying to eliminate that and make it easier for people to connect with each other. What it does not do is give out your contact information. So I think that was one of the really important things. So anyone that's in there can connect with people in there, but they don't actually get your direct contact information. It uses a cloaked Mobilize address. So you don't actually have to be in the tool to continue communication. You can do it all via email, but it won't show them your actual email address until you give it to them. So you do have that privacy element. Yeah.
Nice.
And it is fully GDPR. I know we're like one day away from being the end of the world, but you can go in there and delete yourself and all of your data as well.
Cool. So people want to find a speaker, they just go, and what's the URL for that?
It's bit.ly/Magento speaker directory.
Nice. They just pop over there, then they can search, find somebody, shoot them an email through that.
As soon as you register and are approved, you'll have access to anyone in there. So yeah.
That's really cool. Are you seeing usage of that pick up? Are you seeing people starting to make some good connections to pull speakers in events and stuff?
I don't know. I don't actually have insight into the analytics right now. And even if I did, it wouldn't really tell me, like, did you successfully find someone from this? I could run a poll in there and ask people, but the metric I'm looking at right now is whether or not it's growing. And we have added almost 100 people in the last 2 weeks. So it's like at
Nice.
143 now, something like that. So it's definitely growing. So it's really, it's going to grow the best by word of mouth. So if you're an event organizer, let your speakers know. If you're a speaker, let your friends know. Like, just, yeah, share the word.
Text your ex.
Yeah, sure. If you're still on speaking terms and your ex wants to speak, why not?
Okay, Eric is firing us, hitting us with questions, which is good because these are all very relevant. As an organizer, we put up a call for papers on the website and we tweet it out. Do you suggest we personally reach out to everyone, just blanket everyone?
So actually, good that you brought that up, because this also offers another way to notify. So now you can add in the Magento speaker directory, there's a place for you to post your event, and you can actually list on there that your CFP is open. And that way everyone in the speaker directory will get a notification that your CFP is open, which is a pretty targeted sort of thing. But I will say, in general, for underrepresented groups, you do have to do a personal outreach. A lot of people either don't think they're qualified or they just need that special touch. But if you do it, make sure you're reaching out based on their expertise, not because they're a woman, for example. I have had people come to me and be like, yeah, so-and-so invited me to their event to speak because I'm a woman. Like, literally, they just said, I need more women at my event. Please come speak.
Right.
Which is probably the worst possible way to reach out to a speaker. Like,
right. Yeah. How do you see that balance between wanting to encourage underrepresented groups to speak, but we're asking you to speak because you're the most qualified person on this topic, not because you're in group at, certain group. Like how do you see that tension or that balance?
I mean, if someone has expertise on the topic, then that's great. And you're not necessarily going to get the most qualified person in the world on the topic anyway, right? Like, depending on your event, that's probably not. So you're going to have to look.
Unless you're speaking on it.
Yeah. So you're going to have to look overall. And sometimes maybe you solve that with a panel. I know we do that a lot to give more exposure to different speakers, as we have panels. And on those panels, you'll see at Magento events now, there's always at least one woman. I know that's something Bob Moore kind of brought into us when he was on our team, is he's part of some speaking organization where they actually all have a pact that they will not speak on a panel if there's not a female as well. So.
Oh, wow. That's intense. By the way, congratulations on the whole Adobe thing. I know we're like 40 minutes in before I mentioned that. Very exciting. Yeah, that's cool. That speaker directory sounds like it's super helpful, filling a gap that needs to be filled. So that's awesome. Man, well, like the Magento Masters Pro, everything that you've done is really, like, you're kicking some butt. You're really doing an amazing job, like you really are. It's
Thanks,
like,
buddy.
You're a rock star.
I just look for needs and fill them as much as I can. So I think the key to a lot of this is working with the right stakeholders, and doing so early in the process. So with Masters, I worked with all the key internal stakeholders along the way. So none of them felt like I was stepping on their turf, or that I wasn't involving them in the process, because it does reach across so many different areas of our company. And actually, I give a lot of credit to that to Lee, who was my boss at the time, because he really coached me through like how to do corporate presentations and how to really think through different programs and projects. And he made me like blow the thing up to like so many slides in a deck and then narrow it down to one page. So I had to think through absolutely everything and then present it super concise. And I learned a lot through that process. But a lot of that with Masters, it was all about internal stakeholders. And with meetups, it was all about external stakeholders. So it's just involving those people in the process and letting them build it with you.
Yeah, I was like continually surprised by how many different ways in which the masters were integrated into events, uh, places where their feedback is getting prioritized to so many different. It wasn't just here's a list of people that got on board. Yay! Like it's like and now that you're speaking on it, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like you had to probably integrate with like what are all the different departments or groups internally within Magento that you sort of integrated the master's program into?
Most of them, to be honest, probably everyone, but maybe sales and finance. So, I mean, obviously we're integrated with product. Obviously we're integrated with channel, with events, very heavily with events. Brittany is amazing, really like looking for opportunities to, for the masters at events. So is Vess. They work together on that. Brittany is all of the operations and logistics of events, and Vess is all of the thought leadership and content. And so between the two of them, the three of us work together extensively on masters in regards to any Magento hosted events. So that's a lot of it. Initially, it was like constantly needing to evangelize it. It was finding out that, hey, there is this feedback opportunity here, or there's this new thing we're working on here, and reminding people, hey, like these guys are under NDA. We can give them like prior knowledge of something so that when it launches, that there's 20 people that are looked to as leaders across the world in the Magento community that have some knowledge on it and can share what they know. And that helps the entire community to have that. And so a lot of it initially it was proactively doing that. Now what's great is people come to me internally and they're like, hey, how can we involve the masters in this? And can you ask the masters about that? And we want the masters involved in this. So it's also a fine balance, because I also try to make sure to let our team know we can offer them opportunities, but please recognize that these are the people who are using a massive amount of free time to do stuff for us for free already. And so I do also serve a bit as a shield for them so that they're not constantly bombarded with requests from our team. Now, some of them know so many people on our team that I can't really help them anymore. But, but for the most part, I do try to always frame things as opportunities versus required activities.
Right. So what, like, if you were to just list them out, I mean, you listed generally, but like, what are all the touch points that the masters are, you mentioned product events, like what are all those things that they're integrated into?
So for product, like we've done different council calls with them where, so for example, when we were working on a developer experience initiative, we ran very early feedback by them for that. Paul Beauvert and Alan Kent were always super involved in those calls, as well as Anton Krill. Mark Brinton did stuff on B2B with them early on. James Zetlin with PWA. Now, a lot of our product stuff is we've really kind of taken down that screen, and a lot of it is visible already through either the direct people on the product teams like Zetlin and them, or through the community engineering team. So there's not as much early access to product information, but there are things like the page builder early access program that I can get them into, or for example, we had a call with masters about Adobe and Magento on Tuesday morning with Lavelle, and we have, so at events, we actually hosted at Imagine a breakfast, a VIP breakfast for them with our leadership team. So they got to meet our chief legal counsel, they got to meet our CMO, Jason Woosley, of course. Lavelle was there and spoke with them and really listened to their feedback. So they were involved in innovation labs as well, actually. So, and then marketing, of course. So we do the spotlight videos, and Amanda Batista did I don't know if you saw the Masters of Commerce booklet that was at Imagine.
Oh, that was so good. Yeah.
So that was her brainchild. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so wild. It's a really It's a really great job you've done with that program. So I get, I have people ask like, how do I become a Magento Master? Which a lot of times the response to that is, that's not how to think about it. Think about like, how can you contribute best to the community?
Right.
But I do hear that question. So
Yeah.
how do you respond to people that say that?
So exactly that. Like, first and foremost, I remind them it's not about being a master. It's about contributing to the community. Like, honestly, every single year that we've done this, the 3 years so far, when we actually reach out and invite them to be masters. So it's not, there's no obligation. You do have the opportunity to decline if it's just not your jam. That's totally fine. No judgment. And every single time everyone's like, me, really? Are you sure? What about so-and-so? And so it's just always like this great confirmation that they really are contributing for all of the right reasons. They're not doing it for the spotlight. They're not doing it for the recognition. They're a very humble group that's honestly just trying to help the community move forward. And that's what we're really looking for, is we're looking at contributions that are helping the broader community and ecosystem move forward together. We're looking at things that impact many people. It's not really like one-to-one contributions, it's one-to-many. So things like meetups, things like code contributions, dev docs, blogs, forums, Stack Exchange, podcasts, all of those things. I mean, honestly, none of them are a secret. That's what's so funny to me, is people act like there's this great big secret algorithm. And you're right that you can't do the exact
algorithm.
But if you go to the master's page on the website, there's a section on selection process, and it lists out a lot of the areas. And every single year when we announce masters, we list exactly why they were chosen. In fact, Christoph wrote a blog post, but he like ran statistics on the words in those so that you could find out AI reason or AI way to become a Magento Master. So it's funny to me because I'm like, really, honestly, like, it's not a secret. Everyone acts like it's this great big secret because they don't have the exact formula. But you don't need the exact formula. I've given you everything you need to be successful contributing. It's just, honestly, at the end of the day, it's a matter of what everyone else has done as well. And there's nothing you can do to control that. So
yeah, we want the spreadsheet, Sherrie.
I mean, even if you had the spreadsheet, you'd have to like lock up all the top contributors so that they can't get anything done while you just go dominate. So not really recommending that. Sorry, top 50 contributors. I think I just put a bounty on your heads. My bad.
Just now, Sherrie recommended assassination of the masters.
I said put them in a room. I did not say assassinate them.
I escalated that. See, I told you knew how to handle me.
But I will say also, we implemented something, and this we also discussed with them before doing it, but we implemented something where you can only be a master for 3 years. So you will start to see, we've had new faces. Almost half the masters are new faces every year, but next year I think you'll see an even bigger change because there are a handful of them that have been masters all 3 years.
Got it. Marcel asks, and I think the answer is yes, but will the program continue into 2018, 2019?
That is the plan. Already working on calculating it. So as far as I know, yes, that is the plan.
Unless we keep hassling you about the spreadsheet, you'll be like, damn it to hell, and you'll just blow it all up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much. No, and so, like, it's funny. It's like it's like the Google algorithm, right? Or any set of incentives, essentially. Like when you create incentives around certain activities, the Google algorithm, the purpose is to find the most useful information and to serve it up. And then when that becomes powerful, then people go, well, how can I hack that in order to show up high in the results? Right. And like you're saying, the point isn't how can I be a master? These are people that are just sort of for the love of the community and doing it, out of a real place within them. And yet at the same time, you are, incentivizing people. I'd imagine, one of the goals is to incentivize people to contribute more to the community. So what have you seen the impact of the master's program have you seen any impact from the master's program on the broader community? Like, do you see it, do you see it maybe incentivizing people to contribute, in a broader way as a
Yes.
whole?
Yes. The amount of contributors nearly doubled after implementing the master's program. So yes, absolutely, it does make a very significant impact on that.
That's cool.
There are a lot of other factors now as well. Like community engineering also helps as well with specifically code contributions, and I think DevDocs falls under their umbrella now too. But yeah, no, that recognition, because I think it came at a time where the community didn't necessarily feel heard or valued. And the point of that program was to, I remember actually Karen Baker wrote a blog post a day or two before we announced this program. And I so badly wanted to be like, just give me 2 days. Just give me 2 days. Because it was like, we need more community in the blogs, more community here, more community there. And really Masters worked to do just that. So it provided more community content for the blogs. It provided more insight to the community on what was going on in the company and various things of that nature. And so it was actually really good confirmation reading that blog post of yes, like these are actually needs. And it was good to know that 2 days later, there's a program being implemented designed to solve most of the requests. So yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it's got to be tricky when, you're rolling things out. Magento is a decent sized organization and, there takes time to do things and there's protocol and things like that. And then people in the community are just losing their minds and you can't always comment, I'd imagine.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where we want to be like, guys, just give me a week. We'll be okay. I promise. We already know something's about to land. It's happening. Just hang tight. But yeah, no, Masters, I spent something like 8 months developing. And then we would have announced it at Magento Live Australia, but we announced Magento 2. And so we didn't want it to get lost in that. So we announced it at Magento Live France instead.
Nice.
So it got delayed 3 months or so as to not drown in Magento 2, essentially.
Right. You've been doing a lot of traveling, right?
Yeah, not as much lately, but I did a lot last year. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How are you liking that, traveling the world?
I like it. It's sometimes exhausting. There's sometimes where honestly, I think there was a night in Milan when I just ordered pizza and watched Netflix in my room because I just couldn't anymore. Like that's when you realize you're traveling a lot when you're in Milan and all you want to do is lay in your hotel room and watch Netflix. But you do reach that point. But I never get tired of being able to see the community in their environment, for lack of a better word. Like there's just something really cool about seeing people where they're from versus only seeing them when they come to your turf. And so I think it's really, really neat to be able to experience the Magento community in Italy, to be able to experience the Magento community in the Netherlands and Germany. Like you really learn a lot about people, seeing kind of where they come from. And it helps you understand cultural differences and things as well, which you can take back and really apply. Plus, I just have always loved traveling, so it's an excuse for that too. But yeah,
that's cool. What do you think? Okay, if you could say one thing about the Magento community that is awesome, makes the community unique in a positive way, and then maybe one like a suggestion how the community could improve or be like maybe one thing they shouldn't do, like as far as the way we tend to react to things, or tend to put on the tinfoil hat maybe a little too often.
Yeah, no, the community is, I've experienced a lot of communities, especially last year. There were a handful of events we went to really understand other open source communities. So I went to a few things that were not necessarily Magento related, which is kind of interesting to be at a conference where people don't necessarily know who you are and you can walk around and eat on time and do whatever you need to do and not plan for 3 times as long to get anywhere. But We are actually, and I'm glad that we're doing all of these initiatives to increase diversity and increase inclusion, but we are actually a very welcoming community. Like I look at Monday when the announcement happened and Matt introduced himself on Twitter, and our whole community just piled on like, meet me, meet me, meet me. And not like, who are you? Why are you here? Please go away. You don't belong here. You're not one of us. Like in a lot of communities, that's how people would have responded. They would have just like instantly been like, no, this is not your place. And so I do really appreciate that about our community. I think as a general rule, like obviously there's broad statements and then there's individuals, right? But as a broad statement, I think our community is a very welcoming community. It just does require us to be a little bit more intentional about inclusion, because we don't intentionally leave people out generally in this community, but we do need to intentionally include them. So I think that's really one of the things that we do very well. It's not a toxic environment, which I appreciate. One of the things that we could probably improve on, I mean, there's always like I said, being intentional is a good way to improve, but also I think maybe just I don't know. So like the community sometimes is like the sky is falling, right? But I would say just trust us, but I also realize that we have to earn that trust. You know what I mean? So I do strongly believe that all the way through our leadership has like the community's best interest at heart. Like I know just how much Lavelle really does value the community. Like the fact that he was willing to do a call with some key community leaders on Tuesday and unscripted, just be real with them. That was great. But it is something that we have to continually earn, is that trust. I noticed there was a tweet Monday about someone had relabeled the 5 stages of grief to the 5 stages of a Magento acquisition. And it's true,
I think it was Alan.
Yeah, that's true, right? Like it's a big deal. Like we all have learned and grown. And I often describe to people how Magento has really shaped so many people's careers. Like I wouldn't be where I am today without Magento. It's given so many of us these opportunities that we never thought was possible. And I get that because I started working with Magento as a developer in 2007. Like I've watched all of these changes happen personally, and I've been a part of both sides per se. So yeah, I guess I would say just trust that we do care and we are working on things even when we can't say it, but also I recognize the fact that we have to earn that trust. So
yeah. How do you think Magento the company compares to, because you have experience with a lot of different communities. I'm guessing other open source software communities, maybe, or people from those communities. And there's like a tension between, like, we're an open source community, we're an open community, but Magento can't say there's still a line between things that need to be private, things that need to be public. Like you were talking about, things that are being launched, you can't talk about until they're launched, that kind of thing. Yeah. How do you think we compare to other, like, I don't know, Drupal or like other open source ecosystems, communities, as far as the, like I feel like that's one of the things I like about Lavelle too, a lot too, is like there's a real openness there. And yet he can't say everything. He can't, come out and just say every thing that's going on inside the company. How do you think Magento compares to other communities? Because you've seen so many other communities.
Yeah, I mean, he can't say everything, but also you can tell that he's genuine, and I think that goes a long way, even when there's things that you can't say. As far as how it compares to other communities, it's interesting to compare it to other open source communities because a lot of them don't actually have a company involved. There's actually like this association of community members that are working on the code itself, and there's not like a company funding the code too. So that makes it really difficult. We look a little bit at Acquia and Drupal, but again, the Drupal Association is really, as I understand it, the ones that are working on the code and everything. So it's a lot more association organized than actual company involvement. And so It's difficult. It's actually it's been a little bit of a challenge because I like to look to how other communities and companies are doing things, and we're doing things that really no one else is doing, and so there's not a lot of precedent for programs that we want to implement and things like that. So we can take bits and pieces from here or there, but there's not really one other company that's doing things exactly the same. I know we look at Drupal and Acquia. We also look at Red Hat. And those are the two that probably compare the most to what we're doing, but they're not exactly the same.
Yeah, Magento is unique in that there's been a strong company that's sort of led things and made it a commercial success and made Imagine such an incredible event and all those types of things. So that's something really unique there.
All right, buddy. I actually do need to drop because I have a call with Claudia and she's amazing and I don't want to keep her waiting.
Okay, cool. Well, Sherrie, thanks so much. It was great to have you. Thanks everybody for tuning in. And any last plugs you want to point people to before we jump off?
I don't think so. If diversity and inclusion is your passion, go join us on the Community Engineering Slack, and please join the speaker directory, invite your friends, and go find a meetup near you. How's that?
Awesome. Beautiful. Thanks, Sherrie.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.